without further ado, let's get into game number 2. Spawning in the bottom left position as our red Zerg player for Team Quantic Gaming, it is HyuN. And spawning in the top right position as our blue Protoss player went for a pretty quick Sky Toss build, noted in the chat by HyuN, Sky Toss Gusu. It is the lovable WhiteRa. Commenting on the power of the composition. It is definitely a difficult group of units to deal with. I'm interested that we didn't see any Tempest, but the carrier, man, it's making a comeback in Heart of the Swarm with those nerfs to Infestors. Has become pretty scary. From what I've been told, they actually added carrier micro back in. I'm not sure we saw anything like that in the last game, but it looks like we're going to ship it for another standard opener. HyuN has gotten an Overlord, typically meaning that he's, of course, going to build drones, not a super fast spawning pool. And WhiteRa's got this pile on the low ground. His timing on his Forge will be important to know whether or not he goes Nexus first, which, of course, would mean that he's not getting a Forge, not until after the Nexus anyway. And WhiteRa's going to move into HyuN's base. He's going to see, okay, all you have are drones. There's no spawning pool. There we go. So it's a 14 pool, and we actually saw we've actually seen some 14 pool play. And you guys tuned into the RSL, brought to you by the same people that run this fine establishment. Yesterday we saw some interesting games with 14 pool and Acer Scarlet, but I don't think this map is big enough for Zerglings crossing to become an issue. WhiteRa will probably go Nexus first either way. He's a very, very methodical, focused player, but he usually likes to err on the side of greed at the start of the game and then go for mid-game aggression. And that's one of the things that makes WhiteRa such a good player, is his knowledge and understanding of timings and how to really deal damage, especially with the new Heart of the Swarm units. Spawning pool complete for HyuN. Natural hatchery going up, and only 2 Zerglings are actually going to be made, so this is going to be mostly to just check around and scout, push away any probes that could possibly place any proxy pylons or anything like that. So he's not going to be aggressive at all, and I think that's a pretty good idea. I don't think it would be very wise to try to be aggressive versus WhiteRa in early game. He's very good at surviving. WhiteRa is a hard player to kill. Forge is finishing up. Should see cannon go down now. So in the time it takes, yeah, these Zerglings shouldn't really be able to get in and see too much. He's going to be able to scout for a crazy fast third. Something that I honestly wouldn't put past WhiteRa. He kind of does interesting builds, but not in the cheesy sense. More in the 2-base timing or somewhat greedy sense. But Nexus is going to finish. Gas taken in the main base. We're going to have to see what WhiteRa wants to do in this game number 2. I feel like he's probably just going to go for the air composition again. It's essentially the biggest thing that he's been focusing on in beta. If you've ever watched his stream against Zerg in particular, WhiteRa really favors that death ball of air units, the Colossus, the Void Rays, and the Phoenix. I feel like WhiteRa is a player that makes Tempest, but he didn't make any in the last game, so I wonder if he's going to do that on this map. It's a little bit more historical map in ZvP, a lot more of the old school turtle styles that at first it was like, oh man, we haven't really seen too many turtle PVZs, but then it became very standard in Wings of Liberty for there to be these massive turtles with split map scenarios and lots of spine crawlers. But no gas for HyuN yet. He's just kind of running around with this Zergling, being a bit annoying. Of course, the Zergling won't be able to kill too much. This one probe is just going to try to poke it to death with that particle beam. You'd think for a particle beam it'd be a lot stronger, but the Zealot is going to move out and try to clear the tower. Maybe no. It looks like he's just going to go for pressure, and HyuN will see that Zealot barely running away. So this is going to be a nice catch for him. He's going to have an opportunity to make a couple of Zerglings, as we see now in the production tab, to stop this. And we have a Mothership Core being built by WhiteRa as well, which is interesting. You know, typically the gas for a Protoss player that would have been spent at this point in Wings of Liberty usually goes towards something like the faster Stargate or the faster robotics facility, but the Stargate gets delayed by a tiny bit to get the Mothership Core out earlier. And I think that's good for defensive purposes as well as going for offensive timings, but WhiteRa moves in, tries to deal some more damage, not going to be able to do really anything with that Zealot, gets a Ling or 2. Stalker tries to shove away Overlords. We have, I actually did take out one of the scouting Overlords, but that Stargate is on the way for WhiteRa. So this is more of his style. I wonder if he's going to open Oracle, and I wonder what HyuN is going to do to combat this if he does. We only have one gas in the natural, so he's taking up his third gas, but I wonder what he's going to do with this. It looks like he wants to take a faster third if he's going to open Stargate like this. So the probe heads down to the third base, actually, but it will get cleaned up by these Zerglings. No, barely shoved backwards, so he's going to need to get this Zealot and Stalker to push that away. And HyuN now has his gas. He's just taken it in his natural expansion, so we're going to see some really late tech, but he's playing much more economically than last game. He waited until his third was completely saturated to do this, so it's a bit of a greedy play, but you don't need evolution chambers to build spore crawlers anymore, and those might be what he needs to deal with this super fast Oracle play coming out of WhiteRa. These do tons of damage to worker lines. Once they have the pulsar beam activated, they actually two-shot workers, as you can see. It's 25 damage versus light, and they attack at 0.86 speed, so that's almost twice in a second. Here comes the first Oracle moving up. WhiteRa may just try to focus down drones or just kill this Queen. The lair is on the way. The other great thing is that, of course, he can scout with the Oracle, and this Queen will die. One drone goes down. 2, 3, 4. Man, he is dealing a lot of damage with this. The Queen will be able to push this away, and he's just going to possibly forfeit the Oracle and just to get more kills, but no, he'll pull back after 7 kills. 15 drones, though, being made in response by HyuN. WhiteRa does a pretty decent amount of harass there and doesn't lose anything. Second Oracle is going to come in now, though. WhiteRa, he's really pushing this right now. He's going to need another Queen here to help defend this. One Queen does not an Oracle defeat. Here it comes. It's charging down this Queen. And oh my goodness, at the same time we have pressure coming in from the other side with a Mothership Core and a Stalker and a Zealot. Now keep in mind he can also pull back at any time if he wants to. He has the mass recall ability available to him. He's just going to try to micro the Mothership Core back. There are some Zealots that may be running towards that third base. So WhiteRa's being very aggressive this game, and I kind of like this. He supports out a lot of Zerglings from HyuN. But HyuN already has that 3-base saturation. He's not worried about building workers at this point. He's trying to get a fourth, though, and WhiteRa says, no, sir. He forces a cancel on that, and the proxy pylon does get eliminated for WhiteRa. But he did do a little bit of damage. He's hanging in there. We have Void Ray on the way. A robotics facility has been made this game, actually, and he's going to get an Immortal. So I wonder how HyuN is going to respond to it this game. Now we have the Hydralisk Den almost complete, Infestation Pit halfway done, and the +1 for the Roach attack, which is the most interesting part. So I mean, I guess he's a Hydralisk attack in Heart of the Swarm, but it shows he's going to be a little bit more mindful about this composition from his opponent. Go for a little more upgrade heavy style. Use these Zerglings to run by and try to deal damage. And, well, let's just take a look at some numbers here. Workers killed tab is strongly favoring WhiteRa. He's killed a lot of units, 8 drones, and I believe he still has one of his Oracles intact. So the shields, of course, to regenerate on these, as is the energy, which will allow it to do a lot more damage with that Pulsar Beam. Could try to deny this 4th base and this possible 5th base. I actually really like to see that. There's no mobile anti-air on the field yet. HyuN is just now starting his first couple of Hydralisks, so this is going to give WhiteRa a bit of time to poke away at this, which is what it looks like he wants to do. And even though these units aren't the fastest in the world, he can always recall. He has that ability on the Mothership Core. Once the Hydralisks arrive, he can just kill this hatchery and back off. But there's a big Zergling counterattack going in from HyuN. He actually is moving into his Hive Tech as well to try to get those faster Vipers, I'm pretty sure. And here we go. The Zerglings are running towards him, but there are Zealots in position. They don't have any upgrades, but neither do the Zerglings. The Photon Cannon support will not be enough, and the Zerglings will kill that off. The Oracle has died. The Mothership Core actually died as well, so WhiteRa lost a little bit to try to kill this hatchery, and he didn't get it. The Hydralisks kill 1 Void Ray, 2 Void Rays. Wow, a great catch here for HyuN. Zerglings pressuring this third base of WhiteRa. Killed a couple of probes, I think. Yeah, no, actually. So WhiteRa defended that pretty nicely. First Colossus is on the field, and WhiteRa is going to anticipate that HyuN is going for possibly a really high number of Hydralisks to deal with his Colossus. I mean, excuse me, to deal with his Stargate composition. But going in Colossi, we actually have the Vipers being produced. 6 of them on the way now for HyuN. And if you guys aren't familiar with the Viper, new unit in Heart of the Swarm has 3 abilities that are pretty useful and make it really stand out from anything else that you'll see in a game of StarCraft 2. especially outside the concept of Wings of Liberty. It has Consume, which is an old school ability back from Brood War. Works a little differently though. You consume energy. You increase your energy by consuming the life off of allied buildings. So as we see, he's sucking out the life from his own extractor to give energy to these Vipers, and their energy increases at a very high rate, allowing them to use their two abilities, Abduct, which is a long-range anti-siege kind of poke, as it were. It grabs the unit that you target and pulls it over to the Viper. It has a pretty nice range. You use it to pull out Colossi, Siege Tanks, Tempest, any unit that's a little difficult for you to actually get close enough to deal damage. And its final most powerful ability, I would say, is a Blinding Cloud. Not as strong versus the Air Protoss army. It only works against ground units, but it reduces all of their attack range to melee. So if you put it over a clump of Marines, suddenly they can't fight anymore until your Zerglings are already getting up close and personal. So HyuN has a big force of Hydralisks outside of WhiteRa's natural expansion. He has a ton of Vipers. They consumed quite a bit of health. They're all at full energy, and it looks like WhiteRa's going to engage. Uses the Abduct and pulls all the Colossus straight into the Hydralisks. The Hydralisks are able to focus them down. Blinding Cloud on the Stalkers. They had to move out of it in order to be able to fight, and HyuN takes a really nice engagement using that Abduct to pull the units closer that were trying to get away. A very nice timing with those Vipers. We could see more Blinding Cloud come in to stop the Stalkers. Goes over them, actually pulls the Stalkers into the Hydralisk. They can't run away. Awesome use of Abduct. This is going to be, I think, one of the most awesome abilities to see in Pro Heart of the Swarm matches. It pushes in, kills the Cybernetics core, and now HyuN's going to back off a bit, grabs another Void Ray for free, and he is in a very good position right now. This is definitely an effective trade for HyuN. He's still maxed out, making more Hydralisks, getting +2/2. It's about to finish. He could actually go in for a follow-up timing here. Now, if we look at the upgrades, the Void Ray doesn't have any upgrades. The Colossus is 1/1. +2 attack only now just started for WhiteRa. And he's actually, I love this. We have HyuN built a bunch of evolution chambers. These are cheap, very cheap buildings that have a decent amount of health. And it allows the Vipers to just consume them. Then you can actually kill your own buildings, which is kind of awesome. It's kind of like a literal consume. Just taking away all the health of this so that they can regenerate their energy. And now we're going to see pretty famous on this map, a very big line of Spore Crawlers, a little bit different from Wings of Liberty, but the air army is more the threat now in this expansion of StarCraft 2. So the Vipers are at full energy. They're going to go join this massive ball of Hydralisk and pushing WhiteRa's third base. HyuN is stepping forward. He's going to start to poke away at these warp gates. The air Protoss army is very, very weak. There's only a bunch of charge lots and a single or double Colossus, but I had to say the army for WhiteRa is looking very small compared to HyuN. He's moving in, and the Vipers are positioned. He could actually pull the units across. A couple of nice feedbacks, I think, went down. So these Vipers are a little bit weak. Manages to abduct one of the Colossus from long range, though. Gets feedbacked, but not before the Colossus dies. HyuN spreading out his units. This Colossus and Storm composition from WhiteRa should be able to push him back. Storm actually not done yet, but he did kill all of HyuN's Vipers, so it's going to be very difficult for HyuN to push in before he can get more. 8 more Vipers being made. Now keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, the Viper is a pretty expensive unit. It's 100 minerals, 200 gas, so it's a very, very heavy gas investment to go for Vipers. So losing them, very, very big deal. Prevents HyuN from really going for any other kind of tech, and it's now leaving him pretty mineral heavy, but that can also work for replenishing his Hydralisk count. So he's got this huge army of Hydralisks. He's got 3/3 on the way, and WhiteRa, he's going to try to move out and secure a 4th base. He has 2 Colossi, 3 High Templar, and a bunch of charge lots. He's got +2 attack now, but the big line of Spore Crawlers is being brought up front. Storm goes down, doesn't hit too much. The charge lots engaging the Spore Crawler ball. I don't even know what to call that. That's just weird. Abduct pulls the Colossus in a little bit closer, but yes, actually, yeah, I wasn't pulling it towards the main army. Now abducted once again. This Colossi might barely get away, but these Hydralisks have that speed buff from the upgrade given in Heart of the Swarm, and it looks like that Colossus, he should be able to chase it down, but it will get away. Oh my god. He brought the Spore Crawlers over so that he could consume them in his opponent's base. And that is high-level play, ladies and gentlemen. That is something that I actually hadn't even thought about that. He just lifted the buildings and just brought them with his Vipers. He could heal whenever. Wow. Oh, man, pulls the Mothership Core and a Void Ray across the rift. with that Abduct ability. That's a lot. Oh my god, the Abduct is such a fun ability to watch. But the High Templar are going to go and feed back a couple of them. There's still some with full energy. He wasn't able to kill the High Templar that he pulled back, but I don't know if WhiteRa can engage this army. He doesn't have any force fields. He's going to need money storms to get this. And here we go. One storm lands, gets a lot of the Hydralisk. Another great storm from WhiteRa, but the Abduct pulling the Colossus, man. That thing is waddling around in the air. So many low HP Hydralisks. Oh my, wow, so many red health Hydras, but replenishing the energy in WhiteRa's base. WhiteRa says, GG, well played, and HyuN ties this series, taking game number 2 in this Heart of the Swarm best of 9. That was so sick. He brought Spore Crawlers with his army. Oh, man. I never would have thought of that. Oh, that was awesome. All right, guys. That was just game number 2. We've got plenty more action here. This is a best of 9, as I said, so we'll get right to the next game as soon as we can. Until then, I'm just going to run an ad, and yeah, hopefully you guys are enjoying the casting.